What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and we have got a fun video here today. This is going to be a recap of some of the really interesting sales that I saw going on in this big signature premiere heritage auction that's been going on. Now, I think we all, if you're just anywhere out there in the comic world right now, you know about the Superman one. And we'll talk about that one. I'll leave that one more towards the end, but you know about the Superman one that sold for over $9 million. But overall, just from what I've seen now, I didn't price everything out like I do a lot of the time. So I don't want to make like a definitive statement. But from what I've seen, this has been a pretty successful auction in terms of the performance of a lot of the books that I was looking at. Now, again, caveat all of this. This is the super high end. And so I just kind of say that it's like high end seems to be doing fine. Nobody's really hurting up there. And they seem to be happily spending money on some big books and some big art. And that came through in this auction as well. Now, before we get into this Amazing Spider-Man 300 here that you can see sold for $26,000. Yes, that is right. That is not a typo. Just to kind of get an idea what the sales have been like so far. So in the comic side of things, there's been 1 day of comic sales, 13,934,298. Now 9.1 million of that was the Superman #1. So that was a big part of that, but still 13 million, big number there. Then on the art so far, there have been 2 art sale days, and those have combined for 12,836,000. So we are over 26 million in sales so far. Still 2 days left. One kind of like it's still the high end, but it's like the next level down of the comics and the next level down of the art. And those will probably, push this over 30 million. I wouldn't be surprised. So really big time auction this time around. All right, now let's start getting into this stuff. So I'm going to close these out so we get a little more room up here. You see, there's a lot of interesting sales in this one that I wanted to talk about. The first one, it was this Amazing Spider-Man 300. When I saw this, 26,400 for a 9/8 signed Amazing Spider-Man 300 just blew me away. Now, this has 5 signatures on it. So we can see here, it's got Romita, DeFalco, Lee, Michelini, which I probably mispronounced, I don't know, and McFarlane. And so the big ones on here are McFarlane, Lee, and Romita. But like this quintuple, they're right. Quintuple signed 9/8 white page, Amazing Spider-Man 300, 26,400. And just to like get an idea, I mean, I went over to GPA here, and you can see like what a standard 9/8 goes for. It's going for 90-day average 2,400, last sale 2,200. But then when you start looking at the signatures, I mean, it's like multiple signatures. This one has Lee, McFarlane, and Romita, and Michelini. So like 4 of the 5 sold for just under 9,000 this month. Then this one right here it is. It's already pulled in 26,400 with that one extra signature on it. I mean, granted, it's like it's might be a 1 of 1. I don't know. Let's see if another one's. Yeah, I mean, it may be a 1 of 1. It's hard to say. We could actually check. That's interesting. Let's go take a look. So let's go check out the census, because CGC, it has the signature series on here now. We'll just get an idea. Is this a 1 of 1, or are there any others out there that have this combination of signatures? Looks like I think the least common one is going to be DeFalco. Probably, yep. So we'll go to that one right in here. And then we've got to find that combination of 5 different signatures. So let's see. We want DeFalco. We need Romita, McFarlane. Here we go. All right. So here's those 5. DeFalco, Michelini, Romita, Stanley, and McFarlane. There is 198. There are other books that have that same group of signatures. There's a 94, a 92, and a 90. There's only 198. So it's a 1 of 1 with that group of 5. But still, 26,400. That is a bananas number to me. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this one, I wanted to talk about this book, this X-Men 50. I mean, awesome Steranko cover, just because this is one of those books that it has maintained its value significantly well. since the comic boom. I mean, most books have corrected a lot. But if you look at X-Men number 50, this one, similar to X-Men 101. Now, X-Men 101 did have a couple really high sales in a 9.8, and so it did retreat, but it's maintained pretty well at around $5 to $6 grand. Look at this. This sale right here was $6,000. And look at that. Like comic boom period, it was like 5,700. 2024, last year, 6,500. 66 this year. It's like it's still going up. And this sale at 6,000 was above the average. I mean, look at that, 6,000, 6,600, 4,800. I mean, this is one of those books that it surprised me. And it's off white to white pages, not white pages or anything like that. It just has surprised me that this one has held up as well as it had. And I mean, it's actually, I mean, you saw that. It's like it's still kind of climbing. So not everything dropped. And this is one of those examples. So I just thought that was interesting. Now, the next one, we're going to jump to a piece of art. I just wanted to call this one out because Absolute Batman is so, or the Absolute, we'll call it the universe, has been so popular. And this is the Tyler Kirkham Absolute Batman variant and sold for $16,250. At least on Heritage sales, this is the biggest sale ever for a Tyler Kirkham original art cover. So that speaks to, I mean, one, the popularity of Batman, two, the popularity of the Absolute Batman series, and then, you know, Tyler Kirkham himself. But the next closest was like 10,200 or 10,600, just like barely over the $10,000 mark. And this one, 16,250. So just to show you how popular the Absolute Batman, you know, universe is right now, this was a big, big sale. All right, moving on. They weren't all winners. All right, so here there were, I mean, as I said, like you're always going to have big sales and, you know, weak sales in every auction, no matter how strong that auction is or feels. And this is an example of that. This is Silver Surfer number 4, awesome Buscema cover, 28,800, which is obviously a lot of money, but not for this book over the last few years. Now it is still up from the pre-comic boom prices. Let's go jump over and check that out. So Silver Surfer number 4. I mean, the worst thing is that somebody, you know, this exact same book they sold again and took a pretty big hit. But you look at this, you know, this 9.8, and this is the stuff that I've been talking about. Like when you see this, just don't buy that book until it comes back down to any type of reasonable range. Like this was insanity. This was comic boom. Prior to the comic boom, you know, like 17,000 in 2019, 10,000 prior to that. And then it jumped to 90,000. And then it does, this is what I talk about with like the slow bleeds, where it's like people just can't seem to just let that book correct. And they just, you know, they're like, oh, I must be getting a deal, but you're just catching that falling knife. And it's like 66,000. Then earlier this year, 42,000. And then now this one, 22,000 or 28,800. And you can see that with a certain number, it was actually the exact same book. So whoever that was not only lost like 14 grand, they lost the buyer's premium or some percentage of the buyer's premium probably as well. This was probably on Heritage based on that number. Yeah, also on Heritage. So yeah, there, like I said, they weren't all winners, but you know, like at that price, it's getting pretty reasonable. You know, like 6 years later, it's, you know, 28,000 or 16,800. I mean, it's still up a lot from 2019. And so I'd still be like maybe a little nervous about it, but it does feel like this is getting down to around maybe where you might expect it to be, but I still wouldn't be surprised if it dropped down to like around 20 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, there weren't all winners out there. Now moving on, this X-Men number 1, I wanted to call this one out because this also was a pretty exceptionally strong sale. This is an 8.0, went for 50,400. So we jump over to X-Men number 1. And this one has the lighter green corner box and, you know, green here. There's the other, I'll call it like color version of this one where you have the darker green. I personally, I've said before, I like the darker green more, but everybody gets their own opinion on that. But let's look at X-Men number 1. You can see here, I mean, 50,400. This is an exceptional sale. The other sale this year was 37,200. This is quite a bit up from the pre-comic boom pricing. Obviously down a lot from the comic boom where it was going for 100 grand. But I mean, I think we all just have to kind of pretend those prices, I mean, they happened, obviously they happened, but they aren't valid anymore. And so, but I mean, looking at this, like it sold for more than an 8.5 earlier this year, a 7.5, a half grade lower, 26 grand. So yeah, I mean, 50,400, a very exceptional sale for this one, off white pages. So it's not like a white page thing. I know sometimes people will always try to make that claim. They always try to find a reason for something or whatever, but it's like, this was just an exceptional sale for this book. All right, now let's move on to the next book. We have got Amazing Fantasy 15, a 7.5 off-white pages, sold for $144,000. Now, this wasn't like an overly strong sale or anything like that, just that this was a very solid sale. So if we jump over to GPA, we're going to go to Amazing Fantasy 15. We're going to go down to a 7.5. Very, very nice grade for this book. We have actually seen quite a few copies in this grade. And I mean, this is a lot, like I'll say like 3 within the last year. That's a lot in this grade that have come for sale. So we've got a pretty good representative set. And you can see here in 2025 alone, we've had a $144,000 sale, 138, and now 144 again. So to me, I like seeing that stability because some books are still correcting, some books, are still going down, that kind of thing. Like we saw with the X-Men 50, some books seem to be even trending up a bit, but this one appears to be pretty stable. There are grades that I feel like are still a little elevated, and you're still seeing some trends down. But here in the 7.5 for this Amazing Fantasy 15, really nice sale for this book. All right, now we're going to talk about called a poor sale, negative sale. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw me talk about this one. This is Ultimate Fallout 4, the Djurjevic variant. 9.8 sold for $7,800. First appearance of Miles Morales. This book was the one that went for 43,000 during the comic boom period, and one that I was just constantly warning people about. It felt like it was way, way, way too high. We had seen a lot of other books correct, and this one hadn't yet. And so I was just kind of like putting out the warning flags on it, and it has just fallen off since then. Here you can see that $43,000 sale in early 2023. That was in like January 2023, and it's just trended down since then. Now it has been pretty stable for about the last year and a half, but this is almost the low sale. You can see here back in 2024, we had a sale for $7,744. I think that was like an eBay sale. Then it went back up a little bit, had a couple little higher sales hovering around 8 to 10,000. And now we had this one here. This is the first, like, let's say lower sale at a big auction house. So 7,800 to me is more meaningful than that other lower sale, because this is on Heritage. So just one that even at that price, honestly, I still wouldn't have bought it. Like, this is one of those books that I think can fall more, and there's no need to be in a rush to pick it up. There's a decent amount of copies out there. I mean, look at this. In a 9.8, there's 203 9.8s out there now. And there's probably only going to be more as time goes on. So for me, this is just one that if you really want it, I think patience is the key with this book, and I just wouldn't be rushing out to pick it up. All right, now this is the only pulp we're going to talk about in this video, but this is the first appearance of Conan. This is the single highest graded copy in 8.5 white pages. I think there's like a small amount of color touch on the cover. Yeah, very minor amount of color touch. This is the thing, like, I know people get all worked up about this. Like the Edgar Church Superman 1 has that. Like, it doesn't really matter in terms of the sales price. All right. I know people want it to be like a purple label, but it's just, this is the way that these get graded, especially in the golden age. If there's a very, very small amount, I don't know the exact threshold. You probably have to reach out to like Matt Nelson or something like that to figure that out. I don't know the exact threshold, but you can have very minor amounts of color touch. You can also have very minor amounts of glue. The glue is if it's not actually doing anything. Color touch, I don't know what that threshold is, but 8.5. And this is from this collection that's going to be coming up, I think, in this upcoming like big focused pulp auction. So this one, I mean, you can see here, went for $84,000. And we can look these up on GPA now. So if we look up Weird Tales 108, you can see 1932, and jump over to this book here. We'll see it's probably already been pulled in. Yeah, 84,000. I mean, look at that. The 7.5 went for 24,000 earlier this year. That one single grade, going up to the single highest graded, 84 grand, over triple that price. Just like this one, I mean, I was expecting a pretty big sale. I was not expecting 84 grand. And this might just be like a sign of what we're going to see in that big upcoming pulp auction. All right, now getting out of pulps, because I know most people don't care about pulps. We've got House of Secrets 92. This is another one that this book has been just consistently solid, like consistently strong. This is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. Bernie writes in cover, 9.6, off-white to white pages. This was a solid sale. So House of Secrets 92. And you can see here, sales already there, 45,600 record in grade. Last sale, 2023 for 33.6. Peak Comic Boom, 30,000 and 33.6. I mean, this is up 50% almost, like 40% from peak Comic Boom prices. So it just shows you like not everything is, dropping back down. The stuff that didn't go as crazy, I mean, it still went up pretty fast, but didn't go quite as crazy, is still kind of trending up. And so that's kind of the same thing I've seen with the Golden Age. The Golden Age stuff, like you have some that have dropped back down, but because they don't sell quite as often, it really spreads that out, and you don't get that big spike that happened with a lot of books in the comic boom. You see this general, slowish trend up. But yeah, House of Secrets 92, first Swamp Thing 9.6, incredible grade. Let's check out the census. Yeah, 32.96 is only 3.98 out of over 3,400 universal copies. So really, really rare in grade. Big sale, like strong sale for this book. All right, now we've got the first CBCS book that we're going to talk about. CBCS didn't have a great showing in this auction. There were a couple CBCS books that I was watching. I don't know how many exactly were in this auction in a total, but this is a Fantastic Four #1, verified Stan Lee signature, 8.0. It's got the old CBCS, like red verified signature label, just one of the worst labels of all time. But this one went for $63,000. Let's check that one out. So Fantastic Four #1, first appearance of the, Fantastic Four. And so we've got an 8.0. We go down to an 8. Last 8 for a CGC was 75,000. We had a 7.5 for 78,000, and 8.5 for 160,000. This one also has that signature by Stan Lee and went for 63. I don't know if we'll have a equivalent Stan Lee copy. I mean, here's one from 2017 that went for 33. 2025 went for 42 for a 7. But I mean, not a great sale. I mean, if this was a CGC book, I probably would have expected 80 to 90,000. Like the Stanley signatures on the big books, they add quite a bit. And so if we were going to expect maybe like 70 to 80 for a universal, I would say like 80 to 90 for a signed copy. And this one went for 63. So not the strongest sale out there. Now the next one, this one was one I really wanted to see how this turned out, because this is what you look for when you're trying to compare the grading companies. Because I know like people talk about, it's like, oh, whether it's fixed price or auction and all of that. And so when you have two books from the different grading companies that are very, very similar, that are selling back to back in an auction, that gives you about the best representative set of how that the books from that company are performing. So we had a Journey into Mystery, 83, 8.5 off white to white pages CGC. Went for 55,200. So we're going to go Journey into Mystery 83, just see how that one did. I don't remember if this was a strong or a weak sale, but 55,200 for an 8.5. So there's that sale already pulled in. Definitely trending down. Only one sale this year, but the last sale was Comic Boom period, 2021, 2023. Didn't have a sale anywhere near, around 2019. So, I mean, I'm not really going to call it a weak sale. I mean, when you had an 8 go for 38 recently, and this 8.5 going for 55, feels like a pretty solid sale. The reason I'm talking about this one is that we also had a CBCS verified Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and they're on the interior. So you can't even have the argument that, they're on the cover and someone doesn't like the signatures on the cover. This was an 8.5 white pages. sold for 40,800. Sold for 15,000, 14,500 less than the CGC, and it has the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby signatures on the interior verified. And so because they're on the interior, even if the CGC decided they weren't real, wouldn't even affect the grade. Now, the one possible thing, I don't know if this would cross grade to an 8.5 at CGC. I mean, it has spine ticks and stuff like that's expected in an 8.5. It's a pretty big spine tick, a couple more, a few more. It's like decent number of spine ticks. There's this little chip out of the corner down here. And then there was this kind of like pretty decent little crease on the right edge. So now I would expect it would probably at least get an 8. I'd be pretty surprised if this didn't get an 8. It's maybe they would give it a 7.5, but I doubt it. The back cover, you can take a look. Let's see, back cover, a little like date or something in pen up there, but overall looks pretty nice. And then if we look at the, the CGC book, just so you can kind of see the two books, you can see like you're always going to have spine ticks like in these grades. That's pretty expected. I feel like there's a few less maybe on the CGC copy. I don't know if that's maybe a little like tape pull or something. There's a little wear here. Overall, I feel like, the colors are very similar. I do feel like this one does have less flaws. That's part of why I'm just like, I don't know if this one could cross to an 8.5. And that maybe is what held it back. So just, again, for everybody that thinks like, oh, CBCS always grades harder and all this stuff, like they grade really, really similar. That's how I feel about it. But I would be nervous trying to cross this over and needing an 8.5. I'd probably keep it in that case. So if you look at it with respect to an 8, or even especially a 7.5, it's a very decent sale. You paid about market. But when you're looking at these, this is grade to grade, 8.5 to 8.5. It is a significant underperformance. 30% on a book this big. And the reality is, I would expect even more potentially with those signatures. So yeah, this is the type of example that I really like to look for, is when you have back-to-back very, very similar books and how those companies perform next to each other. It's the best case you're going to get. I know people always want more. They want that perfect case, but this is about the best case you're going to get, and page quality was nicer. All right, let's move on to the next one. I just thought I'd talk about one of these other books that came from that same collection as the Superman #1. This is an Action Comics 15, 9.4 off-white to white pages, 1 in 9.4, none higher. So this is the single highest graded, sold for $264,000. So let's go to action number 15. Yep, Action Comics number 15. Just an incredible sale for this book. You see here, $264,000. You haven't had anything close sell recently. 7.0 Billy Wright copy going for $28,800, but 9.4, $264,000. Just, yeah, really, really incredible sale. This is the type of book that's going to be really hard to determine what it's going to go for. It's going to kind of go for what it goes for. But yeah, over 200 grand. One of the strongest sales, or one of the biggest sales of the auction. Really, that collection of books was pretty astounding. So yeah, Action Comics number 15, 9.4. It had the dust shadows too. I know, I've seen some people, I feel like that maybe they aren't familiar with older books, or have called things like that. Like on the Superman 1, they were calling it a stain. They're not stains, they're dust shadows. It's from when you have books stacked on one another and you have an exposed edge. You can absolutely and this is one of those, it's a weird conversation to have with people, because people have this mindset of CGC should grade the way that they grade. And that's not what CGC does. CGC grades the way CGC grades. And CGC allows dust shadows in very high grades. So even if you don't like the dust shadow in the very high grade, doesn't mean it's not allowed in their grade. And so it's if you don't like it, just don't buy the book. But yeah, you should absolutely expect that you will see dust shadows, or can see dust shadows in very high grade comics like this. All right. Then we had this Batman #1. This one I called out because this was an exceptional sale for a restored copy with quite a bit of restoration. You know, extensive or moderate to extensive A4, color touch, pieces added, reinforced, cleaned. A means professional, 4 means that there's quite a bit of it. And if we jump over to GPA, and again, restored books are always a little tough, but a lot of in terms of pricing, but a lot of the restored books, I generally have been seeing going around 45 to 55,000. So when I saw this one go for 87,000, that really caught my attention because like 87,000, that's more than a 1/8 Universal went for just this year. I mean, so that was I think that was maybe a brittle page copy, but still like more than a 1/8 Universal. Like that is an exceptional sale for a restored book. And so we'll go down to some restored copies. Here's a 7.0, but A2 that went for 90. Here's a 6.5 that went for 43, a 6.5 that went for 50. Here's that 6.0 going for 87. Here's a 5.5 for 58, a 5.5 for 43. So you can see what I'm saying here. Like typically I've been seeing around 45 to 55,000, like generally in that, in that range. Here's a well, what's that called? The Conserve for 41. Here's a 3.5 that went for 37. So yeah, I felt that this 87 for a 6.0 A4, so quite a bit of restoration, was a very strong sale for Batman #1. This is one of the books I would love to get someday, and maybe it is just starting to get out of reach. All right, another Batman book. This was a big talking point book for this auction. We had the Batman the Killing Joke non-numbered PSA 10 that went for $7,800. And if we jump over to GPA to look at this one, the interesting thing with this one is that, what did I do wrong? It's not Killing Joke 10. The interesting thing to me with this one is that, I mean, this was an exceptionally strong sale. I mean, that's all there is to say about it. I know there's this 10.0 $28,000 sale from April. This sale was an absolute fluke. Okay. If you look at there have been other sales since then that have dropped back down around this price. For example, this one. So this was just earlier this year, 6,600 May 2025 on Comic Link, but it's on Comic Link, so they don't get pulled in. There was another one that was around 7,000 that was also on Comic Link that didn't get pulled in. So this is where you have to, like, sometimes you've got to dig a little deeper. And so this is not a $28,000 10. This is like a $6,000 to $7,000 10 in a CGC. In a 9.9, it's like $1,000. And we've been seeing the PSA 10s going for around 9.9 prices. So this went for like a 10 price. So this was, I mean, more than the last 2 10s from CGC. So like my concern with this one that I had voiced earlier was that because we don't have a PSA census yet, a population report, there's no way to know how common this book is going to be in a 10. Because if you go and look at the census for CGC, oh, that's not the right, I don't know why. So that for some reason it's going to the 9th printing. Killing Joke #1. Oh. So let's see. So if we look at the census for this book, there are 14 10s, 55 9.9s. There are a lot of these out there. And PSA gave a 9.9 or a 10 really quickly. So I would have just been more cautious. Now, maybe the person that bought this, it just doesn't matter to them. But this could, a year or two from now, could be $1,000 book. If all of a sudden there are 30, 20, 15, 40, whatever, like a bunch more 10s out there. Now, if there aren't, it's a different story. But this was just very quick that a 10 popped up, and I would have been pretty cautious on it. But hey, this is what we want to see. We want to see strong competition for CGC that pushes both the companies to improve. And so 7,800 was an exceptional sale, in my opinion, for this book. Yeah, nobody should be expecting a $28,000 sale on this. It should have, to me, this was going to be measured against the 9.9, and this one absolutely blew the 9.9 out of the water. All right, a couple more. Just want to talk about this one because speaking of 9.9s, there were some strong 9.9 sales in this auction. This is the only one I'm going to talk about here, but there were multiple 9.9s. There was a Thor 337 9.9 that had an incredible sale. It sold for over $15,000. It was a newsstand 9.9, but the newsstand 9.8 goes for like $375. I mean, it was like a 40x multiple. I mean, an incredible sale. Here, we have Amazing Spider-Man 361, first appearance at Carnage, a 9.9. Let's look that one up. So Amazing Spider-Man 361, 9.9. I mean, the 9.8s have come way down on this book from the comic boom period. And so this one, a direct edition, not a newsstand, 9.8 going around $300. 9.9 went for $10,800. I mean, that's about a 35x multiple. I mean, so again, that 30x around multiple just keeps ringing true. The demand for 9.9s is out there still. I mean, it really is. I mean, no matter how you feel about them, 9.9 sales are just, they have been continuously strong. And I think there's only 3 of this book in a 9.9. Let's check for how many are graded. I don't know what's going on here with their census thing. This new census has really messed up those links. So Amazing Spider-Man number 361. So out of 33,000, well, 29,208, you have 3 9.9s, 6,600 9.8s. So it is a very tough 9.9, and someone paid a big premium for it. All right, last 2 items. First one here, we've got this classic Neil Adams Superman 233 original art cover, sold for $1.5 million. I wasn't surprised it broke $1 million, but it was sitting pretty low before the live bidding started, I think down around like 600,000 or 650,000. So it made a pretty significant jump during the live bidding. I think everybody knows this is Neil Adams doesn't love this cover. He had to like extend Superman's leg to make it fit here, and he didn't like how it looked and all that. But it is, regardless, it is an iconic cover, and one of the most well-known Neil Adams covers out there. So $1.5 million for that cover. But before we move on, let's look up what a 9.8 goes for, just so you see the difference between the highest graded and the art. But you see, a 9.8 hasn't sold for 12 years. A 9.6 going for $4,000. Back in 2013, this book was going for $1,000. It's about 4 times that now, so $4,000. So I mean, a 9.8, maybe 13 to 15,000, might be more since it hasn't sold for so long. Maybe it gets like 20. Who knows? But still, like 20, 25, whatever it ends up being, the original art going for $1.5 million. So obviously very, very different tax brackets on who's picking up the 9.8 Superman 233 and who's going for the original art. And it looks like it's already framed for you. Didn't even have to get it framed. All right, last book. Obviously, we got to talk about it. Superman number 1. I was so close. My $24,000 bid just was almost there. Just a little bit more, and I could have had it. Went for $9,120,000. I've seen quite a few people post it went for $9,240,000, but it didn't. That was the next bid. So it went for $9.12 million. Incredible sale. I wasn't thinking it was going to break the record, and it crushed the record. Now the record is $6 million for an Action Comics 1, 8.5 ever for a comic book. There are higher grade Action Comics number 1, so those would probably beat this sale. But for right now, this is the most expensive comic book that has ever sold. So we go to Superman number 1. The next closest copy is an 8.5, so a half grade lower. It's the Edgar Church Mile High copy. That one was an 8. It's now an 8.5. Sold for 5.3 million 3 years ago. This one just blew that out of the water. I mean, part of the reason I wasn't convinced this one was going to do as well is that it's not as nice of a looking copy. I mean, the 8.5 Edgar Church, and I know it has that little note, like the small or minor amount of color touch, whatever, but it's just not as nice of a looking copy. And I mean, but it is what it is, right? You know, it's like the grade says 9, so it's a higher grade copy. And so per CGC, and so it sold for more. And that's why like we always joke about this, you know, like the buy the grade, not the book. But the reality is, I mean, I know people are like, oh, but if it's a really expensive book, they'll look at the book, not the grade. Nope. It's not how it works. You know, like most of the time they're looking at that grade. And so I know 9.12 million sold for over 50% more than the last highest sale for that Action Comics one. And more than 50% above this, you know, record sale for the prior record sale for a Superman one. So yeah, big sale. And yeah, for I saw some posts again about this. This is not a stain. It's the same thing that I was talking about with the Action Comics 15. This is a dust shadow. It's just that you probably had like 3 books stacked here. These are the corners of those books. And this was the exposed edge. And when it's exposed to that atmosphere, you get this kind of like discoloration over time. But yeah, this is the new King of the Castle for comic books, 9.12 million. Really impressive sale. Let me know what you think in the comments. Man, this video is a struggle to get through. I've been still having like a tickle in my throat, and I've been it's tough to talk for a while. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.